Yvette Marie Stevens was born on March 23, 1953 in Chicago, Illinois. She was the eldest of 4 children born to Charles Stevens and Sandra Coleman. She grew up on the south side of Chicago in a working-class, racially mixed neighborhood. Music would be the center of the Stevens household, as her parents were musicians and her siblings would also later become successful musicians later in life as well. She was also the cousin of singer Lou Rawls.
You'll never find.
Her family would soon realize that Chaka was musically gifted when they realized she could really sing. Chaka would attribute her love of music to her grandmother, who introduced her to jazz as a child. She would go on to become a fan of rhythm and blues music, and at the age of 11 formed a girl group, the Crystalettes, which included her sister Taka. In 1962, Chaka's parents split up and her father would remarry. Chaka would attend several civil rights rallies with her father's second wife, Connie, who was a strong supporter of the movement, who would also encourage Chaka to speak at the rallies. She would then join the Black Panther Party at age 14 after befriending a fellow member and activist, Chicago native Fred Hampton, in 1967. Chaka would sell the Black Panther paper on the street corners. Then in 1969, she left the Panthers and dropped out of high school and began performing in small groups around the Chicago area. She first performed with Cash McCall's group Life, which included her then boyfriend Chaka Khan. Chaka would continue performing with different bands in the clubs around Chicago's Rush Street before landing a gig with a racially mixed funk band called Rufus after the group's lead singer left the group. They quickly became one of the hottest bands in Chicago, especially with Chaka's stunning stage presence and her powerful vocals. One night in 1970, while performing, ABC Dunhill record producer Bob Monaco would see their act and offer to sign Chaka and Rufus on the spot. Chaka at the time was only 17 and needed the consent of her parent, and at that time her mother would refuse to sign. Chaka would then get married to her boyfriend at the time, Chaka Khan, after lying to her mom and saying that she was pregnant.
Catholic. Well, it says the painting on the wall say you got married at like 17 years old.
Yeah, that was to run away, to be free. Mm-hmm. Because I got my first album deal with ABC Dunhill. And I was too young to sign. I needed a co-signer. And I wasn't going to have that. So I lied to my mother, told her I was pregnant. First I asked her, could I get married? Because I wanted to sign my record deal. She says, absolutely not. I'm not going to sign for you to do anything like that. I said, okay. So Hassan and I sat down, we thought about it. And said, just tell her you're married, you're pregnant. And when I lied and said I was pregnant, she rushed us down to City Hall.
In 1973, Rufus was signed with ABC Records. Around the same time, Chaka would end up being pregnant for real this time, although the marriage to her son at the time was very rocky due to the fact that Chaka allegedly had an ongoing relationship with a guy named Rasan Morris, which would ultimately lead to the end of her marriage.
This lovely lady to my right is the incredible Chaka Khan.
Hello.
Always nice to see you. How have you been?
I would tell you, but...
Come on.
Rufus and Chaka Khan would move to LA, where they would release their debut album called Rufus, which did not do too well. They would end up going back into the studio to start working on album 2. This time around, however, Stevie Wonder would collaborate with the group on a song he had written for Chaka after having heard her sing and being impressed. That song Tell Me Something Good would become the group's groundbreaking hit, and it would reach number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1974.
There's this famous story where he comes in and he says, I've got a song that you guys might like, and he plays it, and you famously say,
Yeah, what else have you got? Yeah, it's only fair.
half a century later,
I'll still be singing this
still be
freaking
singing
crack
it.
song, yeah, right.
people won't let you leave the stage until they hear it.
That's true.
It also would later win the group their first Grammy Award. This would help their second album, Rags to Rufus, become platinum, selling over 1 million copies. Over a 5-year span, they would release 6 more platinum albums, which included hits like Once You Get Started, Sweet Thing, Hollywood, and Do What You Love, What You Feel. By 1975, Rufus and Chaka Khan had become one of the most popular bands in popular music, with their successful mixing of funk, rock, soul, jazz, and the powerful vocals of 22-year-old Chaka, as well as her colorful stage attire and her undeniable stage presence. They had set themselves apart from similar groups such as the Isley Brothers and Earth, Wind & Fire. By this time, the group's billing had changed to Rufus and Chaka Khan after the success of Tell Me Something Good. Chaka would be known as the main attraction of the group. However, Chaka's popularity was starting to bother her bandmates. It didn't help that one of the band's albums' back cover and inner sleeve featured Chaka with her trademark hair and outfits sitting on a lips-decorated couch, which gave them the impression that Chaka was the main member of the group. Chaka would also handle all the talk and interviews for the group, and she was given solo covers on the magazines such as Jet and Ebony. Tension started growing between Chaka and the group as new albums were released, members would leave in the group. Despite all the success they had, which included multiple gold albums in 5 years and 25 hit singles on the US R&B chart, Rufus would come to be a highly combustible band. Between the endless lineup changes, fistfights in the studio, issues with managers, Chaka would claim to have been around nothing but rip-off artists.
In there.
When did it change from Rufus to
To
Rufus
Chaka.
featuring Chaka Khan?
When I first
And
got,
why? Why did that?
I didn't have nothing to do with it. It was a record label. It was ABC Dunhill.
Oh.
And it messed us up. That was the beginning of the end for us. It broke my heart. I said, look, I don't want to do this. We're a band.
So they
And we
wanted
were
to
doing
market
just
you
great.
that way. They wanted to market you be in the front. You know,
That's right.
you were not part of the group. It was like they're.
And they took it seriously. The guys,
You
they
know
acted
that
like I did.
ego.
Well,
You
they
know
acted like
that
I
ego.
did it. They acted like I orchestrated
Uh-huh.
it, and that hurt me a great deal. And, it caused a lot of underlying, crap that
Yeah.
didn't need to be.
The turmoil would increase when Chaka would marry her second husband, Richard Holland, in 1976 at the height of her career. Richard became jealous of the way she dressed during performances and wanted her to tone down her sexy stage image. This started tension between the band and Richard, which would result in him getting into a fight with Rufus drummer Andre Fisher at one of the band's practices. The atmosphere got even more rockier when the record label started billing the band as Rufus featuring Chaka Khan. Behind the scenes, though, Chaka's life was going haywire. She would end up locked up in battles with her record label. She struggled with addiction from cocaine, heroin, and alcohol. She would write in her memoir that whenever she started feeling stuff that she didn't want to feel, she would just get high. In 1978, Chaka would sign a solo contract with Warner Brothers Records and released her solo debut album called Chaka, which included I'm Every Woman, which was written by the famed singer-songwriters Ashford and Simpson. It became an instant hit and known to be a women's anthem over the world. The success of that single would help the album to go platinum, selling over 1 million copies. She would continue to make music with Rufus, but she definitely was a star in her own right. In 1983, she would team up with Rufus for one more album, Stompin' at the Savoy Live, which featured the studio singer Ain't Nobody, which became the group's final charting success, reaching number 22 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 1 on the Hot R&B chart. Following this release, Rufus separated for good. Later on, Chaka Khan would go on to meet famed artist Prince when he rang her hotel room in San Francisco pretending to be Sly Stone, who she was very close with.
Prince.
We both read the same stuff, and we talked a lot of philosophy, and then we decided we wanted to work together.
They would go on to become very good friends. Prince would actually write her 1984 hit, I Feel For You, which also would feature rapper Melly Mel.
Chaka Khan, Chaka Khan, let me rock it, Chaka Khan.
Feel For You was a double-edged sword for me. And I recently found out it happened because of the slip of a hand. Arif Martin's hand slipped, and it doubled like that. And it's Chaka Khan is saying it once. And he said, oh, that's cool, we'll let it go. It's Turkish. And so I was like, oh God.
Another song that helped the I Feel For You album go platinum was the ballad Through the Fire, which was also successful on the adult contemporary chart. In 2003, she would share her life story with the world in her autobiography, Chaka Through the Fire. In it, she detailed her career as well as her years of substance abuse. She described the loneliness she felt while touring. She was often away from her 2 children, which only intensified her sadness and guilt. She would tell Jet magazine that she thinks a big part of her drug use was escaping from those feelings. Tragedy would strike in 2006 when her son Damian Holland was accused of murder after 17-year-old Christopher Bailey was shot dead. Chaka testified on his behalf. Her son had claimed the shooting was an accident. He ultimately would be acquitted in the criminal trial and found liable in the civil suit. In 2020, Chaka competed in season 3 of The Masked Singer as Miss Monster. She was eliminated and unmasked in the 3rd episode. Then in November 2021, she participated in a versus battle with singer Stephanie Mills, where both legendary singers performed their hits. Chaka's songs have went on to inspire a new generation of artists, including Kanye West, who remade her song Through the Fire.
I spit it through the wire, man.
Whitney Houston would go on to remake I'm Every Woman. And Mary J. Blige would remake her song Sweet Thing. Sweet Thing. These days, she is a vegan and she spends much of her time raising her granddaughter. Chaka Khan is rightly known as the Queen of Funk. Her career has spanned more than 5 decades. In December 2016, Billboard magazine ranked her as the 65th most successful dance club artist of all time, and she has been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, as well as has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. She is also ranked number 29 on Rolling Stone's list of the 200 greatest singers of all time. Her distinctive voice and style have influenced generations all over the world. Her empowering anthem, I'm Every Woman, is more than just a song. It's a way of life for all women. We wish her the best.